Hi, this is Karen Ann Archer and welcome back to my studio today. Today we're going to be painting my daughter's fish, and the big challenge of this painting will be the glass and the water, and we're going to do the reflection of a mirror behind it. So we're going to have like a reverse picture of the fish. Hopefully we can get the fish to participate and stay on one side. And another little gizmo and gadget. I love gizmos and gadgets. It reminds me of what is that old movie I watched as a kid, The Goonies, where he always had that one little Asian guy had the little gadgets. So anytime I have a gadget, I want to show it to you. And this is one that you can get. It's a viewfinder. It's actually called a view catcher. It does have a color isolator on it. The good things about this is that I'm not going to be able to show you on here because it's on video, because it is so lightly done. But there's markings on here, and they're really light, but you can set it on your canvas size, and then you can zoom through. I'm going to see if I can get the camera to pick up exactly what I'm zooming in on the painting. Another thing is I went to Walmart and got this really pretty silk, and I just love how the light reflects off the silk, so we're going to play that up in the painting as well. I got that for like $2, so periodically when you're at Walmart, check the extra fabric that's been cut, and they usually mark it down so they'll save you, and also give you a variety of fabrics that you can use on your still life. So that's something to keep in mind every time you're at the store, just to periodically check. Let's see if I can get you to zoom in, and let's use this viewfinder. You also use it out in plein air painting, so it's relatively cheap. I picked it up on Amazon. I'm a firm believer of Amazon. So let me zoom it in. The wash is a mixture of yellow ochre and burnt sienna in Gamsol. I'm drawing in the lights and the darks and the values. This is also referred to as no tan. I changed the composition a little. I moved the fish tank over. I did not like how it ran off the painting, so we're going to move it over and put it completely in the painting. Then I put in more of the dark values of the rocks. Okay, here's my palette of colors, and I'll just give you a list of the colors. So I'm going to start out with some titanium white, and we'll probably do all the lighter colors first. So we're going to get the cerium blue, I think we're just going to work back here on the mirror image. I will be speeding up parts of the video just to save on time. I apologize if you hear Ruger in the background. Ruger is our baby. He is a rescue dog. He actually was rescued, literally. My son was out jogging at night and saved him from being hit by a car. So we took him in, and I called around to the dog pound and everything, trying to find the owner. Finally, we found the owner, and she was looking for the dog a home, and so we ended up keeping the dog. So he's literally, he ain't a pet, he's a baby. We do have many pets in the house. The betta fish we're painting in this painting, its name is Shirley. It's my daughter's. I'm going to try to remember to show you my palette as I mix colors. I'm going to go a little bit into that medium blue. Ruger came in that night. My son calls me while I'm at work and says, "Mom, whatever you do, don't come into my room." And of course, I'm worried to death all night. Don't come into my room. You know, the first thing I do when I get home, I go into the kid's room to see what in the world's going on. And I don't know why I did not turn the light on, because it was nighttime, and he yelled, "Shut the door." So I shut the door without turning the light on, and I realized there was a creature in the room. And it was coming toward me, and if you knew my son, that could be like anything coming at me. So I start screaming and almost climbing the wall like Spider-Man. And I turn the light on, and there's Ruger. Crouched down, low, crawling toward me because he knew I was upset. Anyways, we ended up keeping the baby. Burnt sienna. And so we have a Linson crimson here. We're going to add that to a little bit of this red rocks. Morgan has, and I'll show you a picture of baby Ruger. He ain't quite a baby, he's 50 pounds. I'm going to lighten this up just a tad. Hopefully, make sure I'm showing that. Morgan has another animal in her room. It's just Hugh, which is the bunny. Named after Hugh Hefner. And it lives in its Playboy bunny house. Ruger is so funny when Morgan will be in there like any teenage kid. Mom, Mom, Mom. Ruger will run right in there and check on that rabbit before he checks on Morgan. So I'm just adding. Now that color is, this is a magenta, the dark. I'm adding in that to the mixture just to give variety in these rocks. This one here is a little bit darker, so I'm going to go back over here to the burnt sienna. I might go as light as, or as dark as the Van Dyke brown. Add that to this rock over here. Study the reference in the still life of the rocks and use different variety of colors that you see, the lights and shadows, and the details. We have another pet in the house. It's a bearded dragon. It belongs to my son. Her name is Iggy. Bearded dragons become full grown within 3 months. Rocks have so much different colors in them, so I'm just going through and just dotting some different texture on the rocks. Since our focal point is going to be right in here, so we're wanting our details in here, so a lot of the details will come from the rocks. Now we're going to do a bit of the watercolor. So that watercolor, we're going to start with a titanium white. I'm going to use this little mixture over here. And we're going to gray it up with a little bit of Van Dyke brown. And that looks pretty where we want it. So in my vision of the mirror, we have, you can see partially of the water, the top of the water go down because this mirror, the way it's turned. And I will have to fix that when we get to the frame of the mirror. Iggy eats greens and crickets. I order 500 live crickets from Amazon. They come in a box and they just pour the crickets into the box and tape it shut. Here's a small video of me and Ruger opening the box of the crickets. Keep in mind, these are live crickets. Hopefully I'm not stabbing any of them right now. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. 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 And of course, my helper's here to help me. Ooh, there's some on the floor, Ruger. Get them. Get him, Ruger. Okay, I can't hold it. Okay, Ruger, come back. Okay, let's see if there's any more in there. Ooh, there's some more. Ooh. Okay. And we have live crickets. Finish in the water, just trying to keep the brush strokes flat and even without any peaks or valleys to represent the flatness of the mirror. Okay, there's a little bit of probably what I would call fish food settling at the top, which is giving the top of the water like a dark, a little bit more of a brownish color. So we're actually going to put that in. And it's pretty much, you're going to paint what you see. If you see the top of the water, well, you need to paint the top of the water. It's that easy. We've got a really neon pink, and we're going to see what we can do with that flower that's showing up. I'm going to try just making a pink out of white and the cadmium yellow, or the cadmium red, and I'm going to add a little bit of the cadmium yellow in there. I'm going to orange it up. See what happens there. I have this magenta over here. I might try to touch that and see what happens. See if I like that color. Now we'll probably lay this in and may go over and do a few more colors in it. I might want to make it a little bit darker, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that magenta back into it. And I'm just going to put in leaves from that artificial plant. Now the artificial plant actually has a lot of color to it, which is, I think, going to add to our painting. And we want to get all that in. So I'm just going to kind of like draw all of it in with this color, and then we'll go and hit highlights. And we're going to run it off the mirror. Alright, now I'm going to clean my brush. It has a lot of light green into it, so I'm going to come back in, and I have varying green in here, which is a transparent light green, which is good. I'm going to lighten it up with the cadmium yellow, and I'm going to come in here and add some of the green leaves, because it's kind of like has a lot of different colors in this. And we're kind of just getting it, draw it on there. Now, I notice we've got this one that goes this way. There's 3 stems off of that plant. There's 1, 2, and 3. But in the mirror, we're getting the back side. So this one's showing up more because it's toward the mirror, because it's in reverse. So I'm going to have one come out a little bit out this way. And it appears to me have more of an orange color. So we're going to take the cadmium yellow and the cadmium red medium and take it to an orange look and put it coming out as some on this side, as if it's going backwards in the painting. So it's kind of behind that one, and it's just really making this one look really full. We're going to take it into there and brighten this up. a little bit of the white, really brighten that up. Come in here and let's do some lighter colors on that one we've got drawn in. We can really just add the paint at this time. It's really hard to get neon colors. You really don't see neon. It's not really a natural colors. It's pretty much, when you come to fish tanks though, and I almost want to get that even lighter. So we're going to add some of that lemon. Now I've left the paint on there. Just see what we can do with it. Oh yeah, that's really making it go and come to life now. We're just kind of going back over some of these colors. I don't want to get too fussy, which I think I'm almost getting too fussy. I'm going to come back in with this cadmium yellow into the green, see if we can't get a light green. So I'm showing that up on there really well. I'm going to lay in the stem. It's really bright. And I've added some of the white up here to kind of lighten it up toward the top. Let's see if we can lighten up a green. We can actually mix a green, which we all know yellow and blue make green. So let's see if we can take that cobalt up here with this cadmium yellow and see what kind of green we got. If we can't get a brighter, prettier green. I'm going to wipe it off my brush. Go even brighter. And I'm going to scoop. I'm actually going down into the paint, so I scoop up some paint. Good amount of paint on there. The magenta in here. I'm going to scoop that up on a brush, and I'm going to kind of like, I got a flat brush, going in and just doing some of the lines. Applying that fake stem in there in places. Take that same, and I'm just going to go in and put some shadows in the leaves. So that'll start separating some of these leaves up. And if I even want to go darker, I'm going to add some Van Dyke Brown into it. I don't want to do too much because there's not a lot of darkness in here. But I'm just going to go back in and put some shadowing in. So you can start to see that it's not a, those leaves will break up a little bit. And I'm also barely blending it into the color that's already laying on the canvas. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go back in while I have this little brush, do a little bit of detail on the rocks. One thing we need to do is we need to put light, go ahead and put light, some reflection of light hitting the mirror on the, or the glass, on the back side of the glass, which is reflecting into the mirror. This is going to be a challenge. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set my palette down, and I'm actually going to take a flat brush And I'm going to remove paint to get this in here. Now, it's like a straight up line from here. Okay, I'm going to put it in about right here. And what I've done is I took a clean, dry brush, dipped it in Gamsol. I'm going to rest my finger on the side of the canvas. And I'm going to run these straight lines. And it's not really going all the way up, really dark. Make sure it's kind of... And I'm wiping my brush every time you see me come away from. But you want to make sure these lines stay pretty straight, because light reflects on here pretty straight. So I'm making sure my finger stays rested on the side to get these lines in. See a light one up here. It's really light on this corner. Again, keep cleaning your brush. And we get a really bright light over here on the mirror. Again, I'm just going out and cleaning out the color back down to the canvas to get the impression of this light. Alright, I'm going to go back in. We're going to lay a little bit of the frame in. Now I've got a pretty thick brush, so it would help me get this laid in a little bit better. And I'm trying to think, okay, this is actually going kind of up versus down, so I'm going to take it a slight bit upwards. My paint is not smearing very well, so I'm going to dip into the linseed oil, get it to move a little bit. It's actually coming at an angle that's downwards. Oh, no, I got to kind of decide here. Is it going down or up? I think it's going up. Yeah, it's going up. Let's go ahead and get that decided. I'm going to kind of go back in and clean it up. The lines on it. Now we'll probably work on it as we go. Now I'm going back with the Gamsol and just kind of shaping it from the background out. I've gotten it into my fish tank. I don't want to do that. Let's get that little line wiped out there. Okay, I've pretty much got it cleaned up there. Now I'm going to go back in, and I've got a mess right here, I'll be honest with you. Ruger, I apologize. Part of having pets, noisy little things. I'm still just in the Gamsol. I'm back and cleaning this up as best I can. And remember, I've moved all kinds of color off this right here, so I can add more paint to it. Now, the frame, kind of don't want a whole lot of detail, so I'm just kind of, there's like a big bubble area on the frame. So just leaving it a big brown, bulky frame. I'm going to add a tad bit of that detail on the frame left. Back on there. There's quite a bit of lines on this frame. We're going to go ahead and apply them now. by removing paint instead of adding paint at this point. And if you need that, brace your finger to get a little bit of that straight line. I think that's really starting to read like wood. Mirror dowel, I like it. If I have to, I can bring out the ruler, but kind of don't want to at this point. So I'm just going to kind of fight with it for a little bit. There. I'm just going to blend this color out until we work on that background. Just kind of blend it in. That's one thing about lines. You could either work from this way out, or you can push your background inwards to work on lines. So we'll just leave it like that for now. Okay, I'm going through and just adding different shades of like gray and some blue in, and making sure I'm not keeping my brush strokes going across and almost a little swoosh move to imply those brush strokes so they will read as if this jar is round. Try not to go into, try not to pick up any of my rock colors. So we're just kind of adding on, really studying the water and looking for different colors in there. There's like shades of blues, there's some brown grays, darker grays, so you want to put those shadows in. And we're just kind of putting them in, and we'll go back over it and blend it. We want to kind of just, at this point, get it in. It is picking up the cream of the silk behind it. Now I've kind of already put that in. It's kind of made a tad bit of a line down through there. Right before the glass ends, I can see this color. Makes a straight line and then comes around. So I'm just going to kind of imply that in. Now the top of the fish tank is a bit of a darker gray. So I'm going to come in. I got a flat brush. Rest my fingers on the top of the canvas. And taking that straight across. And just like the mirror, we'll go back in, put those beams of light reflecting off the glass. I'm just kind of getting in the darker areas at this point. Now the fish tank kind of comes up and it bevels inwards. We're going to fix that with the, when we do the background. Right now we just kind of want to get it in there. And I rest my finger on the top and I slide my hand across it kind of, and if I can hold that brush still enough, I can get a decent line across there. Again, we have another darker area right here. It kind of comes down into a line that I see. So I'm going to put that line down. And again, you want to keep it straight. Rest your finger on the right side of the canvas. And then I'm going to go to that line and flick outwards. Just not going over that line. And give a dark appearance there. A little bit more darker on this side. The only problem is my finger's not strong enough to long enough to really rest on this side of the canvas. See if I can't stretch my finger over there. That's as good as I can do. I'm going to wipe some of that paint off on my paper towel. I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to, same line, and I'm going to flick it into that other paint. Try to get those lines. Now, I think we're to the point we have enough paint on there. But I want to go back and add a darker area up here. I see in the jars. Might add a smaller line on that side. Smaller line on that side. Load my paintbrush back up. And when you're loading your paintbrush, you want to definitely go just straight down. Not really getting any paint on that side. I'm gathering it all up on that side. Resting my finger and then dragging the paint. We're going to come back and do most of our blending at this point. Now this edge, again, I'm not really worried about how straight I get that line because I'll go back in and fix it up with the background. But I kind of want to get it in there. And I'm going to lightly go to where I have the edge and pull in like a little downward move, but really small. So I get that appearance. That brush stroke does matter, of that fish tank being round. I'm wanting to stay out of the rocks because they're really not involved in any of this. The only thing about the rocks is we may have to go in and light up this passage of the rocks a little bit. And again, when you blend, you can either blend a dark to light or the light into dark, depending on how much light we want right here. So we're going to want that to be more light, so we're going to go from the inward, outward, and we're going to wipe at every stroke. And wipe, pull and wipe. Now you can start out with just a little bit of light. If you need to remove more paint there, you just put a little bit more of pressure on it. And again, we're going to lighten it all the way up. Probably pull that back too. Now, we really need it to blend, so we'll be working here for a little while to get some of this color blended in. And you may need to go in, and I do have a thicker dry brush. This may save us some time to take it and just pull. Just remember, when you get to that edge, you're going to go up a little. Now I'm going to make sure I dry the paint off. Come back to the middle. I'm pulling and then go up. And remember, I'm not staying straight across. I'm going straight across a little bit, and I'm going to start and slowly go upwards, just a tad. When I come into, if I come into a rock, I'm just going to pull away from that rock and then pick it back up and do the same. And I'm going to go in from this point and go this way and do the same thing and go up a little. I'm not really worried about where it goes into the background, and go up a little. Middle, go up a little. And again, middle, go up a little. Alright, and to the top, I like this darker right here, so I'm going to take the darker and pull it this way. And kind of leave that dark. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with that, except I have a few little brush strokes here. So I'm going to dry my brush really good, really lightly. I'm just going to come in here and flick these brush strokes out and blend them that way. Trying to keep it just a straight woo 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 move. I love sound effects. Woo, woo, woo. Pretty. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way the jar looks on the bottom. Now these, I think I'm going to take a smaller brush so I have more control. Okay, it's a flat brush. And I'm just going to make these lines just a tad bit less sharp. Now I'm going to take them on around. Just making sure they're just a little too sharp for my comfort. Okay, at this point we want this line here to be really straight, so I've got a little level. And it looks pretty good, so I'm not going to really worry about it. I'm going to check this line here on the top of the frame of the mirror. Just make sure it's kind of straight line, but yet it's kind of going upward, and that looks good. So I'm not really going to worry about any more of my lines at this point. And I do want to lighten up these rocks right here just a little bit because our light is really kicking right here. So this passage, you can tell, is a lot lighter since I've went in there. And I don't want to fuss with it too much. I'm going to go back in and drag around some of the colors to get rock shapes again. Doing like a little bit of blending on the rocks, which is okay. This section of the video is done in time-lapse because it's just a repeat of what we did in the mirror. It's just the front side of the plant. Take your time and study the colors you see in the plant. That will help out in your decision making on the colors you want to use in your leaves. The plant in the jar, the 3 stems separate versus how we painted it in the mirror where they're more together. Get into the Gamsol with a clean, dry brush. And we're going to add those glimmers, just like we did over here. And so I'm going to start right here and go up. I hope this turns out. It's a little shaky. Can't really rest our finger over here like we have been doing, so we're going to have to rest it up in a dry area. Okay, that works so far so good. And it's almost like it's, what I can see is there's a little area that's really thick here, and it's not just straight lines. So we're just going to clean that up with a Q-tip. That red is very strong. Maybe some of that red out there. Q-tip to do that best we can. Try your brush in between each time you see my brush go away from the canvas. It's going to come down at this point. We're going to stay a little bit away from that flower this time. What's showing up right here is where we put in this tone here, when we did the no tan, and that's already dry, so it's not taking it straight down to the canvas, which is okay. I'm kind of liking how that's coming through. I like how it's reading, so this should be really easy to move. had to take a little bit that way as well. And I want to brace when I was bracing my fingers earlier, I was bracing it on the side right there. You might not have seen it, but my pinky was what was resting on the side of the canvas. There's a tad bit of color over here that kind of just goes swoosh around that way. And line down. I'm just really doing this now. So I think I'm almost overworking these lines. You can always go back and blend if you think you've got carried away with the reflections. Here we're just laying in the background. We have titanium white, Indian yellow, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and the Van Dyke brown. We're just laying them in, putting in shadows, putting them in big blocky textures and colors. I am using the fabric as a reference to putting in the silk. I'm just turning the brush as I come in and out of the painting to lie in the fabric design. I've switched to a smaller dry brush to do blending, to blend out the harsh lines and add a little bit of shadowing around the fish tank. While you're blending, remember every time you move the brush away from the canvas, I am wiping it on a paper towel. In this section, I'm keeping the highlight and the lightest part right underneath the mirror and the jar and making it darker toward the bottom of the painting. Okay, we've made some changes. I decided the fabric didn't look good coming over the mirror and the jar, so I've blended all the bottom of it out. And the way I did that is I took a really big brush and took it sideways as a slant and then took it straight down to make it appear that it is on a table. And then we'll put in some shadows and finished out the frame and put in a shadow of the jar here and finished up the rocks. So as the jar is sitting on top of the table versus sitting on top of the fabric. But left the fabric print in the back kind of show through. Now all we have left to do is paint the fish. Go ahead and lay down where the fish will be. Little trick, we fed the fish to keep it on that side of the tank. So hopefully he'll stay in one spot for a little bit. While we're painting the fish, and I'll tell you a funny story about the crickets. I got a box in with the crickets in there, and there was only 15 crickets and a hole in the screen. And it cracks me up to think about that poor mailman that had probably about 485 crickets lost in his mail truck. It just cracks me up to even think about that. And don't forget to leave at the end any comments or video suggestions or questions in the comments on future videos that you would like to see. I had a really good time painting today with you all, and come back and see me.